I'm Specialist Mark Davis in the 22nd Foxtrot Rescue and Recovery Operation out of Fort Riley, Oklahoma. First thing I remember is waking up in the middle of a forest. I was injured and I didn't have anything with me other than my gun.
I saw a path that someone had walked on a little ways ahead of me, so I decided to follow it and see where it would take me. I came out overlooking a man-made trench dug out next to a stream. I finally got up to the house without being seen, and I remember walking up to the deck and freezing just short of the door.
What really made me freeze was that I noticed my enemy's insignia on the door. I leapt forward, pressing myself against the house to where the dog or the people couldn't see me. I knew I had about 5 seconds to act, so I decided to take off running back to where I came from the entrance of the forest.
I started veering to the left, and after a ways, I found a little road.
I put myself in my enemy's shoes. I figured that if they hunted me the same way as if I would hunt them, that they would leave the only place of civilization unguarded. And I remember walking up to the house the very first time I saw some kind of satellite dish in the ground. I figured that if they had a satellite, I could root around a little bit and try to find some type of communication. Being hunted like a wild animal by my enemy made me start to question why I was there in the first place.
I was with my team of 3 aboard our helicopter. Our mission was to fly around the enemy territory to our allies who were in desperate need of our food and supplies. Someone must have shot us down because I remember when something struck our blades, the cabin filled with smoke.
I remembered the radio frequency my pilot used in order to communicate with us on the plane, so I figured that if I could make it to the house, that I could find some type of radio communication so I could call for help.
I could see that all the shades to the windows were drawn, so I crept up along the garage, slowly turned the knob, and entered. The garage was its own separate unit. It was connected to the house by another door. I looked around a little, but I couldn't find any communication equipment. Even more carefully than the garage door, I turned the knob of the house door, and once again I froze there.
I felt as if I was being watched when I propped the door open with my gun. I could feel like there were cameras watching me, and they were watching my every move, waiting and anticipating the perfect opportunity to take me out.
But I waited in the garage and listened to every sound that I could hear. I felt, but sensed nothing. I pushed the door aside with my weapon, ready for anything.
I found a compact radio on the table that drew my attention. I smiled because I knew that I had found what I set out for. I decided not to waste little to any time in there because I wanted to get out. So I grabbed the radio, put it in my pocket, and started my retreat unopposed.
I was able to make it out of the house and down the slope. From there, I ran through the woods, trying not to draw attention to myself, but fast enough to put some distance between the house and myself.
I've had years of extensive training in situations such as this and far worse, if you could imagine. This situation separates the men from the boys, if you will. You have to be able to be in this situation and have a clear enough head to know what's going on and what you need to do to get yourself out of it.
I decided not to waste a battery and to adjust the radio to my pilot's frequency to try and hail him.
Arclight, this is Roundhouse 06. Do you read? Arclight, this is Roundhouse 06. Do you read?
For a brief moment, the notion that my crew had all been killed floated through my mind. I stayed there for a long time before I heard a lone voice among the static. I couldn't make it out right away because when I first heard it, the voice seemed to have the volume turned down, even though the static it was spewing out was loud in my ears.
Arclight, say again.
Eventually, the signal got stronger, and I could hear my pilot calling out for anyone in our team to answer his call.
I was able to evade capture and meet up with my pilot. When I found him, though, he was very badly injured. He said that before he was able to get out of the wreckage, that he ripped the CB radio communicator from the dashboard, and it only had a limited amount of battery. So in order to conserve his battery, the only time he turned it on was 5 minutes before and after every hour in order to make a compass. That's a period of 10 minutes total that he had the radio on. Had it not been for everything that happened, I wouldn't have met up with my pilot. He was able to use the radio that I stole from the enemy and change it to an encrypted frequency in which our pilots use in case of emergencies. The dispatch there put us through to the closest available chopper. We arranged to be picked up in the next morning. He didn't want to risk setting down in the heart of enemy territory because he would probably have got shot down himself. So he had us walk about 4 or 5 miles to the outer edges of the forest, and we were able to stay there overnight. He came at the designated time, but he didn't set down to the ground all the way. He just hoisted down a cable for us, and he just took off. And the cable was hooked up to a winch, and it pulled us up to the chopper. And there was a crew with the pilot who were able to pull us up into the chopper, and we were saved. I'm Specialist Mark Davis, and I escaped enemy territory with my life.